Morning, this is Monty once again from DPL Surveillance Equipment. Looks like it's going to be a very nice day for those people who want to get out and about. Definitely in sunny Southern California, particularly Camarillo, California. We get so many pleasant days, you rarely get bored of or the monotony associated with just fair weather. That averages probably 75 degrees most of the time. You know, it's like there is no real seasonality going on here. And as I always mention, you typically I don't know if it's natural to not have any seasonality. You got to have some rain. You got to have autumns and falls and all of these other wintry seasons and stuff like that. Anyway, that's what's going on here in Southern California. This is what we have to deal with. Particularly who are running for this position and that position, they're basically digging out every single thing that a number of incumbents did not want to touch. Certain issues, were literally postponed so that during the midterms they could become an issue. The United States has been experiencing immigration for 100 or 200 years. Healthcare has been an issue for 7, 8 years, at least 10 years, in terms of whether or not ACA is going to implode or not. The Obama's healthcare initiative was supposedly going to self-destruct, but as my latest article is going to indicate, is anything but self-destructing. Idiot politicians are just roaming the entire country talking about fixing issues. Now that it's time for those guys to run for office, they want to address issues that should have been addressed all along. But that's what happens when you have people that are representing you that are going to do the things that you're supposed to do yourself. They'll convince you that they're going to fix this and mend that and remedy the other thing, but in actuality, I think it's you and I responsible. Yours and my responsibility to take care of these things ourselves. Giving someone authority, that much authority, and that much power, is typically not a good idea. Anyway, what else is going on? Oh yeah, I'm gonna start publishing articles that have to do with because the economy kind of sucks right now for a lot of businesses. We're going to publish articles pertaining to which businesses are actually not only surviving but thriving in this environment, and they're more or less the exception. As we pointed out, when you have major department stores and other retail companies going out of business, we talked about Toys R Us, we talked about Sears, JCPenney is still suffering, Ford is laying off a lot of people, Verizon's laying off 40,000 people at least. People in the mortgage, banking industry, real estate related industries are going to be looking for jobs real soon because nobody's going to do real estate deals at higher and higher interest rates as compared to lower interest rates. So that's got to be the next shoe to drop. It's just a whole bunch of different reasons why entrepreneurs and such are going to want to know what certain companies are doing to survive and thrive and establish success as compared to having additional companies that fold up their operations and lay off a lot of people. So anyway, stay tuned and check back in our articles on our website to find out what companies are not only surviving but thriving, and they're competing effectively. Some are partnering with Amazon, for instance, and some are totally don't want to have anything to do with Amazon and that business model. and they're surviving on their own and becoming quite successful without having anything to do with Amazon. So I think it's going to be unique, and your entrepreneurs and business owners and merchants and retailers or whatever out there, you may want to pay attention to that. My name is Monty Henry, owner of DPL Surveillance Equipment. We run a full-service surveillance and security equipment company. We have lifetime guarantees and warranties on all the products. We have 24/7, 365 tech sales and customer support. We have the largest inventory of items that not only can you buy, but you can rent or you can lay away as well. We have an extremely large, what I call a media center or media library. Basically consists of articles and blogs and podcasts and demonstration videos and such, covering a variety of topics: cybersecurity, cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, health and fitness, economics and finance, surveillance and counter-surveillance, terrorism and anti-terrorism technologies, and a miscellaneous category, catch-all category for everything else. We do accept Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Bcash and Ethereum in our shopping cart. So you crypto millionaires, you know, like I know and we know, my family, and we know that a lot of us are doing very well because we opted out of the traditional fiat system, and we forayed into the cryptocurrency space, and a lot of us are not being exposed to so much of the risk and the restrictions and the compromising of our financial sovereignty as those who are still participating in the fiat economy. So kudos to those of you who realize and understand the difference in terms of what the Federal Reserve represents, or the central bankers, what they're doing to everyone, and how those financial shackles are inhibiting others from being successful. But those of us in the cryptocurrency space, we realize that we don't have to worry about that. We're untouchable. You can't take our money. You can't confiscate our money. Once we get our own private keys for Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin or whatever cryptocurrency, once we take possession of our own keys and our financial freedom, you don't just lock up those funds by, going to a bank or going to a credit card company or going to a merchant processor or going to some other financial institution. It doesn't work like that in the cryptocurrency space. Speaking of the financial industry, such as the banks and the credit card companies, we always want to poke a finger in the eye of those guys. Those industries are dinosaurs, and we're looking at the complete collapse of the entire banking system. When you hear that MasterCard and Visa and American Express and those guys are trying to tip their toes into Bitcoin and blockchain, and when you hear about Fidelity and when you hear about Morgan Stanley, when you hear about BlackRock wanting to offer crypto custody services and such, that means that they're no longer fighting Bitcoin and blockchain and cryptocurrencies, the industry, but they want to join in. They want to reap the rewards. They want you to open an account with them and let them keep your cryptocurrencies in their own safe or account or whatever they want to call it. So those custodial services and the hedge funds, in terms of what they're doing in this space, all of this testifies to the fact that this is the future. Once they shunned us, once they laughed at us, once they told us that we were just scammers and compared us to tulip bulbs and all of these things, you don't hear so much of that anymore, because the word is getting out that the major crooks and criminals are the UBSs of the world, the HSBCs, the Wells Fargos of the world, the Citibanks, and the MasterCards and the Visas and the American Express. These guys are the ones who every single day I see settlements for LIBOR rate rigging, mortgage scandals, discriminatory loan practices, $260 billion money laundering through Eastern European Bank, Danske Bank in Europe, in Eastern Europe, for the Russians. Um, these scandals are on such a large level. It's almost inconceivable that these guys are perpetuating crimes on these levels. And like I know, every crime that you see published in the paper, there's 20 of them where people actually got away with everything they're trying to accomplish. So, but they don't go to jail, right? You don't see people from Citibank and Wells Fargo and HSBC and MasterCard. They don't go to jail. So, anyway, what else is going on? My website is completely redesigned, and it's open and available for people who want to take advantage of that. And hopefully we'll eventually get rid of MasterCard and Visa acceptance and Discover and all those guys out of the shopping cart. And that'll demonstrate that we're serious about just promoting cryptocurrencies being spent on our website. And hopefully in the future, most merchants will follow suit online and offline. Today's article, let's get to today's article. Today's article is all about, it's going to go into the health and fitness category on our website. And basically, it just give you a teaser alert. Basically talks about the Affordable Care health plan that Obama put into place. And it talks about how you guys were led to believe that it was a complete failure and is a complete failure. It's going to fall apart and no one's going to want to use it. And no one is using it, and all these other myths and lies and deception and FUD out there pertaining to the ACH. But as the article is going to point out, it's alive and well, thriving. 10, 12 million people every single year signing up. A lot of healthcare providers are definitely learning how to price the premiums appropriately, and consumers are basically feel like they're getting obviously some value for their money, obviously, or otherwise they wouldn't be signing up at 10, 12 million people at a time. I wish someone would give me 10 or 12 million people, customers for my business, and at the same time trying to convince me that there's these weren't real people or real customers, or that they really didn't like my product or really didn't like my service, even though 10 or 12 million of them every single year is signing up. I would love to have that type of problem, but that's what happens when you have a bunch of retards who don't understand very much at all in terms of doing their homework and doing their own research and maybe taking some financial responsibility of their own as compared to delegating everything that they want to understand and read and such to politicians and everyone else. So you guys wake up and take responsibility for your own actions and make sure you learn the difference. You don't have to worry about somebody feeding you information anymore. Okay, this article is entitled, Health Law Faces Its Toughest Stress Test Yet. Health law faces its toughest stress test yet. Recent and pending GOP efforts to chip away at Affordable Care Act cause new uncertainty as open enrollment begins. The Affordable Care Act's sixth open enrollment season begins Thursday, making a test of the health law's stability following a series of Republican efforts to roll it back. The sign-up runs through December 15th for coverage beginning on January 1st, 2019, the first year when consumers won't face a financial penalty for foregoing health coverage. Republicans in Congress repealed that penalty in 2017, but the change won't take effect until next year. So again, remember you guys, a lot of you were under the impression that you were going to be penalized if you didn't sign up, but now we see that you don't have to worry about this. This is the first year when consumers won't face a financial penalty for foregoing health care coverage. So this is all voluntary. It's up to you. It's a choice that you can make on your own without being compelled or penalized to make the choice. And it looks like, judging by the numbers, 10 to 12 million people are definitely making that decision to go ahead and enroll. This is also the first open enrollment period under a Trump administration change, expanding access to cheaper plans that don't cover the panoply of benefits mandated by the ACA. Those less expensive plans can also deny coverage to people with pre-existing conditions. So again, the skinny plans, as some of the Trump plans are called, don't offer you very much at all for your money, and definitely you may have a problem with pre-existing conditions under their plans. So keep that in mind. That you don't want to get less for your money. If you're going to get an ACA plan and you have health issues, or you think you may have health issues, across a broad spectrum of ailments and physical ailments and things going on with you, then you're going to want a more comprehensive plan, not a less comprehensive plan for you and your family. Okay, both of these changes would weaken the exchanges where millions of Americans who don't get insurance from an employer or government program go to obtain coverage. Health analysts say the moves will likely siphon off younger and healthier consumers who are needed to offset the health costs of older, sicker people remaining on the exchanges because they need more robust coverage. Republicans, however, say the initiatives will provide financial relief to consumers who have been hard hit by higher premiums and penalties under the ACA, or who are looking for more flexibility. I would be careful what the Republicans are saying as far as their own solutions, because they didn't offer anything during the last 7 or 8 years or something when they talked about why ACA was so bad. They had plenty of opportunity to craft a solution that was comprehensive and well thought out and very attractive, and they didn't. So I would be very careful about those people who are just criticizing other people's efforts as compared to coming up with their own. It takes more work sometimes to come up with your own initiative and as compared to just criticizing everyone else's. There is as much uncertainty in this open enrollment period as in any since the law first went into effect, says Larry Levitt, a senior vice president at the Kaiser Family Foundation. Republicans have jettisoned some of the onerous parts of the ACA, and now we'll find out if what's left is a workable structure. The open enrollment season is kicking off just before the congressional elections, in which health care has emerged as a top issue for voters. Both Democrats and Republicans are trying to portray themselves as guardians of the ACA's protections for people with pre-existing health conditions. The blizzard of ads and heavy campaigning on health care could have a spillover effect, driving more people to sign up for coverage. But some ACA advocates worry that intense politicking around the issue could be distracting and discourage people from signing up. So I guess they're saying that despite the negative publicity is publicity, right? If we're all thinking about health care because politicians, particularly Republicans, are trying to dissuade you from signing up, now more people are going to wonder, okay, why am I told, that this is a bad thing? Typically when anyone tells you that this is something you shouldn't do, you're more curious. At least a lot of younger people, they don't like being told what to do. So they typically do the opposite. And in this case, I think they're doing the opposite, and they're signing up in large numbers for ACA. The election is going to take away media coverage, said Joshua Peck, co-founder of Get America Covered, which backs the ACA. There are a lot of very challenging things we face this year. The law has proved resilient despite President Trump's assertion last year that Obamacare is finished. Many health analysts had predicted enrollment would drop off and premiums would rise this year because of GOP's efforts to chisel away at the ACA, including cutting the law's advertising budget by 90%. So this is interesting. If you cut the ACA's advertising budget by 90%, and still you're signing up 10 to 12 million people a year, I think the word of mouth obviously is something you don't want to take for granted, because it seems like in this case people are definitely finding out and they're telling each other you go ahead and sign up for Obamacare, or are you going to end up getting screwed? But nearly 12 million people signed up or were re-enrolled in coverage for 2018, a similar figure as the previous year. The number of consumers who paid their continuing premiums, however, slid to around 10 million people because not everyone pays their monthly bill, and others may get insurance later from another source, such as an employer. This type of fall-off has happened each year and is typical in the individual insurance market. So it looks like on the pros and cons side, a lot of people are definitely allowing the re-enrollment to take place. I guess it's like having signing up for a subscription service with your credit card. If you don't cancel it at some point, then you are going to automatically be re-enrolled. But the most telling statistic may be whether or not these people stay enrolled or not. So it looks like when people are being re-enrolled automatically, they're staying with re-enrollment and they're keeping the coverage active. So that's very compelling in terms of how that plays out. Many consumers' expenses didn't soar this year. Roughly 85% of enrollees received a tax credit to help reduce their premiums. The average credit covered about 85% of the total premium cost, making the average premium after the subsidy $80 a month. I think $80 a month, it doesn't sound like a whole lot of money as compared to some of the numbers that I've seen. So I'm going to have to look at that myself. Analysts had warned 2019 could usher in higher premiums on the individual market, both on and off the exchanges, because of the repeal of the penalty for lacking insurance and because of Mr. Trump's decision to end billions of dollars in payments to insurers that covered certain cost-sharing subsidies. But that spike hasn't happened. Average premiums sold under the ACA will fall 1.5% next year, according to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, while more insurers are participating or expanding their footprints in the exchanges. So again, you always want to pay attention to what companies are doing. Forget about what they're saying. Look at what they're doing. If more insurers are participating or expanding their footprints in the exchanges, that means that the industry has decided this is the place to go. So don't be stupid. Don't let these guys play you. In the Trump administration, the marketplace ultimately is the arbiter of what is actually important and what is actually happening. If I'm a healthcare insurer and I'm spending more money expanding my operations, working with ACA, then obviously I've determined that that's where the money is. That's where the customers and the clients are. So, when people vote with when these companies vote with their dollars, that's important. You don't want to ignore that, you guys. Both are signs that ACA's exchange markets are becoming increasingly stable, despite predictions of its imminent demise from all sides. One likely reason, consumer demand has remained unexpectedly steady, which in turn has helped insurers' bottom lines. And additionally, many insurers set high premium levels in past years, allowing them to keep increases to a minimum this year. So this is probably the most compelling paragraph of all in the article, you guys. If the exchange markets are becoming increasingly stable, then that's probably the reason why more insurers are quite satisfied with being part of it as compared to not being part of the exchange market. It says consumer demand has remained unexpectedly steady, which is a sign of a maturing market. I'll also give you guys a bit of advice. Okay, sometimes when you implement something into the marketplace, particularly on this scale, it takes a number of years to reach what we call a type of equilibrium, whereby you're starting to understand how to price your service, how to price your product. I don't know if there's a lot of entrepreneurs listening to this or whatever, but you understand that sometimes you adjust your prices up and down, try to find a certain point where you maximize your sales, right, of a product or service. Initially your products could be priced too high or maybe too low, but at some point you're going to find a appropriate place where how to price your product or service, and this is no different. A lot of these healthcare insurers, they're starting to understand how to adjust the premiums to a level where they don't discourage too many people at the same time where they don't lose too much money. So now they seem to have understood where that price point is in terms of making money and satisfying the customers at the same time by offering something of value at a decent price. And in addition to that, it says clearly, additionally, many insurers set high premium levels in past years, allowing them to keep increases to a minimum this year. So it sounds like a lot of these insurers, they intentionally price the premiums a little bit higher. Again, give them a benefit of the doubt because they didn't know exactly what all the hidden costs were and where all the expenses were going to be, and they priced premiums a little bit higher. And now they understand that there's less unknowns, and they understand a little bit more about what they're up against as insurers participating in the exchange markets, and now they're bringing down those premiums, and obviously business is looking quite good for a lot of them. Okay, moving right along. Uncertainty still looms. 20 Republican-led states are asking a U.S. district judge in Texas for a preliminary injunction to invalidate the entire ACA, arguing that the repeal of the penalty invalidates the health law overall. The Justice Department has also weighed in, asking the judge to strike down key parts of the ACA, including its protections for people with pre-existing conditions. Mr. Trump, however, has said Republicans will protect pre-existing conditions. So it sounds like these idiots, they don't know whether or not they want to expend their efforts. The Republicans are kind of like retarded. They're trying to figure out whether or not, you put in effort to to get rid of something that was supposed to implode years ago, or whether or not the early demise of this Affordable Care Act is actually on automatic pilot or something, but just in case it doesn't implode, it sounds like they want to go to district judges and tell them, you can't repeal penalties, or the repealing of the penalties is that it should invalidate the entire law overall. They don't know what side of the table they want to get on, okay? Because if I don't have to pay a penalty or be compelled to sign up, that's actually a good thing, especially if enrollment goes up or even maintains, right? So they're afraid that, people, when given a choice without penalty, that if they do sign up, they still sign up for ACA, that's going to be a very embarrassing thing for the Republicans, right, who are trying to convince the entire United States or nation that this is not something that people want. But obviously, they're having a difficult time, and they want to go to district judges and such to make this thing implode if it's not going to implode on its own. So it sounds like they want to sabotage it. Obviously, it's not going away. So anyway, a bunch of mixed up fucking retards in Washington. A hearing on the case was held in September, and a decision could come any time, although legal experts expected to land after next Tuesday's election. While the Trump administration has significantly cut outreach funds, states that run their own exchanges are working to get the word out about the sign-up period. Connecticut will hold enrollment fairs with free in-person assistance. For example, while California got a jump start by beginning its open enrollment season in mid-October, Minnesota is providing free walk-in enrollment help at a variety of locations. consumers have been able to go online at the federal exchange, healthcare.gov, which I think I'll go check out this afternoon, to preview plans and prices before open enrollment begins. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS, which oversees the ACA, is staffing a call center as usual. CMS also is encouraging consumers who are currently enrolled to update their information, shop, and pick a plan that suits their needs before the December 15th deadline. As in previous years, CMS, or Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services, will automatically sign up consumers who don't re-enroll in the same plan or similar one. So I think that's kind of interesting in that you won't have your coverage lapse because you forgot or something, but you will be re-enrolled automatically in the same plan or a similar one, and then it's up to you to cancel out. So I imagine that if people don't cancel out of these plans after being automatically re-enrolled, then that's typically an endorsement, right? So, so you guys, again, don't be stupid. If people are staying in the plan, letting automatic enrollment take place, signing up with the same plan, signing up with similar plans, only paying on average of $80 or whatever for a more comprehensive ACA plan as compared to a less comprehensive Trump alternative, where they're going to be causing you to be concerned about pre-existing conditions, that's not a viable solution. That's not a viable choice for a lot of people. And you understand why, just like I understand why. So anyway, as I like to say at the conclusion of every podcast, keep your eyes and ears open, and stay safe out there. Have a good day. Thanks. Take care. Bye.